The FF1600s series takes a break from draft trains to head to what is a very, very classic iRacing venue. Still deep in America, but this time it's at Laguna, Seca. I'm Howie Burrows. I'm joined as ever by Ronald Malms for what is now the halfway point of the championship run. And it is certainly a classic that we're aware of around here. It's Laguna's Seca. We've all driven it. We've all taken these cars around here. This is going to be a tough field.
Oh, it is going to be a real tough race to round off the first half of the season, but we're going to be living La Vida Laguna Seca today. This is going to be a fun one. This 11-turn road course, it is a staple of American sports car and Formula car action. Of course, Indy cars have made a name for themselves over the years. We just saw IndyCar run here this past weekend, and these cars always put on a good show around a track like this. We've been off the back of a lot of draft-heavy races, so I'm personally looking forward to a return to some sanity. I say sanity in air quotes because these drivers always know how to put on a show, and around a track as challenging as this one, I still think it's going to be a tough one for these racers today.
Still a tight battle as ever at the top of the championship. It things can swing rapidly, and we're not even into the drop week region yet. We're going to hit the halfway point when this one is done. Rens Brookman has had consistency on his side to stay at the top, but Jordan Gronowski is fast, and there's a couple challenges today on the track that you might not be aware of, but are going to make this race a real handful. And no, that wasn't a barb. That's a reference to Jos Marie, a driver I've heard a lot about on his raw pace. He has this week's track record, and he's never hit up the SOF. Here he is, 7,000 I rating worth of car right in front of you. Gonna try and run at the front of this pack.
Yeah, he is keeping his fingers crossed that he'll be able to get a good run here in this qualifying session, because I feel like getting off to a good starting spot may be a real key to do well here in this race. An absolutely packed split, an absolutely packed time slot here for today's SOF race. I mean, this was the top split of, what was it, about 5 splits that we had for this race. Incredible to see the turnout here at this free track, but with that comes a real refined group of drivers at the front of this field. Got treat us to a good one here, Howie. There is no question or shadow of a doubt about it.
Usually you get about 12 rookie cars on this track. We have 20, and it includes a very tough handful of very aggressive drivers. This might be the turn that is a bit make or break for everybody. Keep it careful through the Andretti turn. Keep it careful. Of course, there's more iconic around here, including the dreaded corkscrew and the even more dreaded corner before the corkscrew. I don't know if it has a name. I don't know if it really deserves its name. So riding above with Jos Marie's #1 car here. We have a 4.5k SOF with a 7k at the top and a 3k at the bottom. As a reminder, the top split of this time slot gets broadcast live on the channel, but every split counts for championship points. They're collated at the end of each week. And if you outscore a driver from this top split in iRacing points, you will take home more in the total standings. And Medma sets the first lap on the board. Fabio Birchtold sets it faster though. A good few running through. We're going to keep an eye on Jos Marie as this lap gets run down. It's usually pretty easy to keep it within the lines here, but I'm the sort to make plenty of mistakes off the track on this sort of sand.
Oh, I absolutely am as well. And we have to worry about that here in this race today, Howie. You think about this track and you think of some of the new physics that we have here on iRacing. The gravel probably going to get dragged on this track throughout the rest of this race. And that will be something to keep tabs on. It will be a test of your graphics card. It will be a test of these drivers' patience as well. So they really need to run a tight ship when it comes to this race here. Doubly so considering the incident points. But that's Jos Marie jumping up to the top at a 1:30.314, pretty quick. Run above Daniel Tufts in P2. Now, Tufts is a driver that I'm going to keep my eyes on throughout this race as well. He won the Weekend Warriors race yesterday on a different broadcaster, but he was quick in that event, won it in rather convincing fashion as well. But we haven't really seen too much of a spark for him thus far this season here in these SOF races. Yet to grab a pole, yet to grab a win, but Daniel Tufts is always a formidable force, so look at him in the 7th to try and pounce here today.
I'd love to see someone beat a track record this week, but it's a 1:29.9 from Yoss earlier. Big gap between Yoss and Renz's time there, a 1:30.30 versus a 1:37. More some drivers running around here for their second lap. Here's Kieran Shanks, and we saw plenty of on the track last week. Jumping up into P3 across the line. This one's going to be a hard one to get right. Shall we give this a collective try together? Sean Geography? I'm going to go with Sean Geography myself. That's my pick for that one. Names are hard out there, let me tell you that. Andrea Bellotti also yet to set a legal time. I think the first one was outlawed. No, there it comes. Small delay. Everybody's got their first one on the board. Now here come the next. Yoss Marie set the fastest to go, a 1:30.0.
That is a very convincing time for the driver of the number one. I'm going to give him my own take here. Sean Garrity, who we follow right now, heading his way off through turn number 4. The mid-sector of this track that we're seeing this racer head through right now, one of the later additions to this track. If anyone's unfamiliar with the history of Laguna Seca, the run from the Andretti hairpin into turn number 5 that we just saw Garrity go through, that used to be just a straight shot in between the two of them. That entire section from the hairpin through into 5, that used to just be the infield of this track. They changed it back in the mid-80s. It was 1987 when they made those changes, trying to attract Formula One. F1 never came here. Instead, we've got a whole other bunch of Formula cars that run here throughout the calendar year. I hope that this track is one that will remain in function for quite some time. Of course, it being California, there's a lot of people who are shocked when they move to an area right by a racetrack that are surprised that there is noise around that racetrack. But, you know, it is still an absolute gem of a racetrack. There's going to be a challenging one for these racers as well. I talked about the incident points that may strike. 17x, of course, being the DQ limit. One fast repair allotted to these racers. And, of course, here in this qualifying session, I have to worry about the scrutiny as well. But it looks like everybody has gotten a clean lap. With the yin of it being a challenging track comes the yang of the fact that a lot of people have experience running around here. I can't tell you how many laps I've done here at Laguna Seca, but I can definitely tell you it is firmly within the hundreds.
I think one of my first ever truly great iRacing races was FF1600 Laguna Seca, and I did it once. I had an amazing performance in like a 1K split, and I never really replicated that high ever again, to be honest. By the way, I've been told it's Kian Gagafi failing to, and I bet I got that surname. You got the surname right now. I've got the first name right. Failing to set a legal lap off the track twice. It would have been a 1:37, but the sand claiming those laps. Thomas Fleming is the last person on the track. He's going to keep us busy for all of 10 seconds, but I do have the feeling that that car's not quite going to cross the line in time, and we're instead going to have to move on to the grid very soon. He's just buying us time. He's just buying us time on the track. 20 cars hit the track, so let's get the starting grid going. I'll let you start this time. I've done enough talking. It's on the way.
Pass it off to me. Yeah, here we go. We'll get some WD-40 on the graphics here. Just a quick little and we'll be able to get them moving here in just a few moments' time. But for the first time this season, it'll be Yoss Marie starting this race from the pole position in the number 1 car, starting in P1. And Adama will join him on the front row. It'll be Kieran Shanks starting this race in 3rd, alongside Thomas Fleming in 4th. Looking right behind them on the 3rd row will be Renz Brookman, the multi-time pole sitter, had 3 straight heading into this race. He'll start this race in P5, with Martin Arnoldus running out your 3rd row. Looking right behind, it's Daniel Tufts in P7, fittingly in the 7, and Leonardo Pires Noguera starting this race in 8th. And then running out our top 10 here for this race with Faith Agritas and Jordan Gronkowski.
Let's see how much I can speed run the rest. In 11, Christopher Cash, next to Andrea Bellotti, behind Benjamin Rogers and Graham Rory Hunt, Fabio Birchtold and Dima Sirkin in 15th and 16th, next ahead of Dan Blake and Mark Shawley. Philip Sear is in 19th, and Kian Gagati not setting a lap start at the very back of the pack. 20 cars into 1 turn. It's gonna be an experience, but there's a few more come to grid. If they can get past that first, I'm being told different things now on the in-game voice chat, which, by the way, doesn't come out to iRacing, I'm afraid, guys. You're not going to quite photobomb my stream like that. So I'm being told we're just going to keep getting this wrong and someone's going to tell me after the fact what happened, okay? Any reflections on us? One car left the grid, make it one sentence. Make it 0, I'm afraid, Ron. Because we now have all our drivers on the grid. That's my price to pay to cut you off right there. Impressively done. Here we go. Green flag in the air. Very big single file running already. I see Medma looking to try and make it 2 on the outside already. Cut off again, and a big spread. Super wide. It's Kieran Shanks's 9 car actually on the outside. Take a very wide entry into turn 1. Gave a lot of space, but seemed to run a lot of momentum, and a lot of drivers parted that seat. Bit of a check-up behind here, starting with Fatih for Egritas, who sort of, you can see right behind him, it's the massive pack of drivers just trying to go 2 free wide 2, getting all the way back 2 off the track already. That's Berthold, and that is indeed Kian Gagati, for all I said. Further up the pack, and Medma looking to try and get a pass done on Thomas Fleming. Doesn't quite get executed. Further down the line, that looks like to me like Arnoldus's car trying to run Rendsbrook, but it's a very busy track here at Laguna.
Yeah, as they head their way up the right haul straightaway through the corkscrew for the very first time, we'll break out the stat. The 5-story drop heading all through there. Gonna be tough here in these Formula 4s to try and keep it running through there throughout this entire race. But the front of the field, it's Marie in front of Shanks, in front of Fleming. Looking close between those racers, but trying to see whether or not there will be a breakaway for them. With this single file racing, you're eventually gonna see some racers just decide to duke it out here in the early stages, try and make hay while the sun is shining. I feel like the battling may be going on at the front. Shanks maybe gonna look to try and get a move done on Mary, heading down into turn number 2 of the Andretti hairpin, while the premier overtaking spots that look like we're nearly gonna see a side-by-side scrap between those two. They keep it single foul for now. I think there may have been some drama heading off into turn number 1. Yes, there was. Dan Blake dropping down like a rock. Not sure what happened to him, and I think there may have been some more involved in that, potentially in the form of Benjamin Rogers.
Let's keep an eye on that one. We'll get back to our lap 1 crash a little bit later as well. It's Dan Blake's car into the first turn, and it's all kicked off just a little bit beforehand, hasn't it? I think that's Mark Shawley's car. A lot of drivers use the same design, so now I'm having to play like comparison games and really work out what happened. Here's Shawley, goes very wide. And no, it's not even that. It starts with the 13 with Benjamin Rogers. There's a lot going on there, and I could unpack it. And I think we might get some time at the very end. Up front, it's a 3-car chase. Marie, Shanks, and Fleming, and Medma holding up the rest of the pack 8 further ahead. We're starting to get a little bit of separation as we come down this track. And
starting to see a little bit of a gap form between your P3 runner of Thomas Fleming and your P4 runner of Anne Medemna. But we're looking now at a fight that may go on a little bit farther behind. To look at Daniel Tufts and Martin Arnoldus go side by side, coming across a stripe there. Looking at the front of the field, though, now it's Shanks trying to do the move that he did in the early stages, sweeping around the outside into the Andretti hairpin. Doesn't get it done on Maria, and now goes to feel the burn. As look at that huge stack up heading through turn 2. I think that we may have seen Daniel Tufts pick up some airtime and all of that. Arnoldus involved. Multiple drivers getting called in that drama. I think I may have seen Bellotti get a piece of that action as well.
The Andretti hairpin was going to be the sign of something, and that is the something. That's the beginning of a stack up that everybody just can't quite recover from in time. There's multiple meatballs have been given out, 3 of them. I didn't really want chase. I want a little bit wide at a chopper cam. There are 5 meatballs in just this one turn. An attempt at 3 wide. And that is a big traffic jam on the track. There's accusations of diving from some. There may be accusations of turning in from others. I'm going to let them fight that one out for the rest of their days as they all toe in the pits and have a lot to say about that one. Jos Marie, Fleming, and Shanks still running in your top 3. I think Berchtold is also out and around, but I don't see any other car quite in that vicinity. May have been a spin going into the... I forgot the name of the corkscrew in Laguna Seca. You should sue me. I'm a war criminal for that one. This has been the most explosive race so far in terms of incidents. I didn't know it would be here.
You know, I can't necessarily say I am too surprised. I said this earlier on. I think this was said right before we went live here with this broadcast. During the Weekend Warriors race yesterday, we saw plenty of drivers pick up incident points and end up getting some black flags. So we may end up seeing that here in this race. Of course, half the distance at only 20 minutes long, but you can see some of that drama break out here in these races as well. Doubly so with the amount of drama we saw a few moments ago heading down into turn number 2. I'll tell you what, Howie, and this is honest, the last time I saw that many meatballs, I think I was seeing the Godfather movie. So I'm not really sure what to say apart from that in terms of that moment down to turn number 2. But I think it was about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 drivers involved in that drama down to turn number 2. Real tough stuff heading off through there. It's such an inviting spot to try and get a move done, but it can also end in tears. The same could be said at the end of this Ray Hall straightaway into the corkscrew, though we're going to see Graham Roy Hun maybe try and go for a dive, may possibly, perhaps on Jordan Gronkowski right in front. Gronkowski's had a good run up to this point in the season. Of these SOF broadcasts that we do here on Maconi Entertainment every single Monday, he's the one that's gotten the most wins, 2, and they came back-to-back as well at Summit Point and Watkins Glen, as we're still in the midst of this American stretch of the schedule. Look at that driver, the number 5, maybe try and impress in the upcoming weeks, as we still have some very challenging tracks ahead of us and a very compelling race still at the front.
I think at the front, a lot of drivers are going to bide their time, but make a big move near the end. There are spots as well near the end of the track where you could punish someone going to that last corner that takes a suboptimal line. This could be also a track where disqualifications rear their ugly head. Remember, 17x and you're out, and there's a lot of sand that drivers have been using already and kicking up all over the track. This top 5 have very much stuck around to each other. Medma has been able to stay within touching distance, and while this isn't that much of a draft track, you want all the little advantages you can get with horsepower this low. Renz Brookman also in line in 5th, and it's Jordan Gronkowski much further back trying to hold off Graham Rory Hunt. Fabio Birchtold passing Philip Sear up the hill, and this is another turn. There's a couple that scare me, and this big sausage curb on the inside likes to do it. Philip Sear is able to navigate that one pretty cleanly, as the rest of the drivers at the front are approaching the last few turns of the track. Lots of spots to overexert yourself, put in a little bit too much and lose it all, really, especially into this final turn where, as I've mentioned, you can go just a little bit wide. It's so sharp, and this is potentially your chance to get a run on someone.
Yeah, that certainly is. Heading down the start-finish stretch off into turn number 2. Yes, turn 1 is that kink right at the crest of the hill, but even in these FF1600 cars, it's essentially flat. I think I saw a driver run a little bit wide there. That, I believe, is Arnoldus. I think one of the lap cars involved in all that drama up towards the north end of the field, so not too much to take when it comes to all of that there. I was just going to say, though, that run heading down the start-finish stretch is the main overtaking spot. We are going to see these races try and go for those moves heading off into turn number 2. We have already seen it to a large extent here in this race, and definitely going to see it in the second half, as we haven't even hit the halfway mark of this race. 6 of 14 expected laps currently on the board. Jos Marie still leading over Fleming. However, these two drivers not covered by anything. As about a 10th and a half separating the two of them. You can see the blocking contact being made. They're going to go off.
Jos Marie just sent around and around right into the top of the corkscrew, and that's going to send them flying down the pack. Fastest driver of the day. Here's the run. Thomas Fleming just behind, a lot of speed, a little bit of a twitch both ways, and not a check up from behind. The voice chat in my other ear is very colourful, as it's been all race. We march onwards, and this changes our top quite a bit. Thomas Fleming now runs alone, and Kieran Shanks might now be able to get the run coming in.
And I will say, and this is honest, I don't think Jos Murray has anyone to blame but himself as a result of that drama heading up the right haul straightaway into the corkscrew, just trying to block every single way he possibly could. And Thomas Fleming, he's there to do one thing, and he's there to take the win. So he's not going to decide to say, okay, I'm going to let you drive around the track like a madman and go to the inside, then the outside, then the inside, then the outside, swap sides like you're flipping burgers at McDonald's. Not going to allow that. Jos Murray just blocking like a madman at the end of that straightaway, really spinning himself off in all that drama. It's an unfortunate moment, very fast, but that was not the smartest decision as far as I'm concerned at the top end of the circuit. But he spun around, now dropped down to P5. Don't want to rub salts too much into the wounds for him because I'm sure he's probably very upset, but I don't really think Thomas Fleming did anything wrong and all that. And I will say, this doesn't help Fleming's case, because now instead of just having to worry about getting a move done on Jos Murray, he's now got Kieran Shanks and Medna and Renz Brookman right behind. So he's got three drivers all looking for a victory here today, all running right behind. So Thomas Fleming not out of the woodwork by any means whatsoever.
Kieran's line going into the first corner, he's been doing this every single lap, very, very, very wide, opening up very differently than the other drivers, and I don't know if it's quite leading to the long run pace. Now that we're out of traffic, it's going to get taken, that gap by Anne Medma, and blocked and covered off again by Kieran. I've seen a lot of blocking into this first turn, and really the other drivers sort of had to back out every single time. I worry at one point someone's patience is going to boil over for this P2, and that's going to lead to more fireworks. And you know what? I have dealt with a lot of fireworks this week, more ways than one. Already, it's Monday. Let me tell you that. I'm counting. Let me count that back. The last 7 days, yes, I'm going to count that. So I'm curious as to how this line into turn one's going to work out. Whether it's going to give Kieran the run, or whether it maybe leads to more. And Med made quite a bold move there, and it didn't quite work. Maybe you've got to cover him off on the inside to get that pass done.
Yeah, and I think blocking off the inside line at certain parts of the track is probably the smart defensive move when it comes to moves down into the corkscrew. Going for a move around the outside in there, you have to be already alongside before you even think about breathing on that brake pedal. And you also have to have stones the size of the lug nuts on these cars to really think about getting a move done around the outside into the corkscrew. It can work. It can also go desperately wrong. And we go back to that discussion that we raised a little bit earlier on this broadcast, how we're talking about the incident points that may rear their ugly head. This is an old school track. This in real life now has far more asphalt runoff than it does at this scan in this sim, but it is still very easy to have those running wide moments in these cars that at certain points in time will feel like a declawed cat trying to climb up an igloo. It is a tough ask for these racers to try and keep it 100% clean. I'll go back to me talking about the Weekend Warriors. This past weekend, we didn't have a single driver finish with a 0 or 1X. Usually we have at least 1, 2, 3, or sometimes even 4 or 5 do that any given weekend. Didn't have a single driver do that. It really speaks volumes about how challenging this track is, doubly so with those anti-cut red sausage curbs of evil death and destruction on the inside of some of these turns.
And obviously the real sprint nature of the race, with only 20 cars and an absolute scramble to try and stay to the top of it, leads to a lot of aggressive driving in both the past, present, and in plenty in the future. Very curious what's going to happen next week at Long Beach. I think it's the first time we've ever taken these cars to a street course. A very, very drafty street course with long straights and very, very aggressive walls. That's going to be an absolute trip, and maybe my favourite race of the season. We'll see how that one goes. You can catch it on this channel as ever, same time next week, as I bring you the only regular road show on the channel. Gotta say it. Maybe it's my specialty. Still saying 1, 2, 3, and 4. Keeping an eye on Anne Medma's car. Not seeing real runs develop, because there's your start-finish straight. There's sort of the line. It's quite early on before you enter this kink into turn 1. This time Anne Medma wants to send it to the inside. It's covered off in time, and a little bit of a spin there that got corrected. I wonder, don't know if there was any extracurricular help from behind or whether that's just a little bit of overcooking into the turn. Let's keep an eye on this. Probably wasn't from behind because Renz Brookman has a very big distance, but that car definitely felt like it slid a little, and it's a good save. A very good save. Renz actually does get a little close. He's not passed in real time, but just about misses the chance to make the pass there.
Yeah, I think what happened there was Kieran Shanks was very eager to try and defend that inside line down into turn number 2, maybe swiping across a little bit, and they weren't side by side at the time, but I think Medemna was definitely caught out a little bit as a result of all that, so a slide from the 3. There's still basically nose to tail with about 0.3 of a second separating the two drivers running in P2 and P3. If there is a battle for second here in this race, it's going to be great for us here on the broadcast because we'll have some real intense racing action to talk about the north end of the field, but it'll also be music to the ears of Thomas Fleming, still holding on to it and trying to build a gap between himself and Kieran Shanks. Once he breaks away by about a second, we may start to see that gap grow even more, and one thing that may help is side-by-side racing now go on between these two.
A run out of the last corner work for Medma, and this time he has the outside locked and secured, but it's not a good racing line into turn 2, and that's going to cost Medma greatly. If you don't get clear on that start-finish straight, you might not have the pace. He is able to take it back off Renz Brookman. We might need a bit of a further eye back as to how this one kicked off into the last corner. Count on me to miss it in live pictures, but I'm always here. A bit of a bump on the curb for Shanks gives Medma the run, and you really have to get it quite done the long way around on this straight around here, because you think I'm faster, good on them both to get it done without contact here, but you're able to outbrake on the inside, and I'm surprised that Brookman got held off here. Was it a game of momentum? I think it is just a game of momentum, and the way the track opens up into the next corner set that up for Ann Medema to take the place back. Renz Brookman has to be one of the most frustrated drivers here. 2 mistakes from Ann Medema, not being able to capitalize on either, and time is running out.
And you know, it's interesting, despite the fact that Renz Brookman grabbed 3 straight poles at Summit Point, Watkins Glen, and Road Atlanta, yet to visit victory lane thus far in these broadcasted races here for the FF1600s. So we may have to think about Renz Brookman trying to fight at some point throughout this season, because he wants to go back to victory lane. As here we go side by side yet again. Medma trying to battle hard with Shanks around the outside into the turn. Shanks going to have that opportunistic spot, and through he goes to hold on 2 seconds, still not over. Look at those two trying to block it off hard. Is Shanks covering off that inside line into 3. That's going to give Renz Brookman another opportunity. Backs out of it though. Side-by-side racing here into turn number 4 just does not work out. A bit of a curb whack there from Ann Medema, and we're going to take a look at a replay to see that side-by-side racing that we saw at the start of this lap. I think it's all good news to Thomas Fleming, who now pulls out a 1.4 second gap between himself and your P2 runner of Shanks. But look at this. Didn't work out too well on the inside last time by, so he sweeps around the outside, tries to get it done. Clean stuff there. It was close to contact, but they keep it smooth through there, keep it smooth through the rest of turn number 2, and there you can see Shanks placing that car as well as he could to try and block off that line. A little bit of a wiggle to the outside there as they went off into turn number 3, but overall, stuff in the regulation for all of those competitors. They keep it clean, they keep it smooth, at least for now. We still got some laps left to go here in this race, and how hard these drivers have been battling. I would not be too shocked if we start to see tensions maybe boil over. We'll just have to find out.
This has been very, very tough for all these drivers, but you're very right in that Thomas Fleming is the only driver that it could not be happier with this. The battle continues for P2, and Medma tries it, backs out. I think Renz is committed on that outside line, though. Still can't get it done. It's been so tough to make a move, but Renz's patience has been running out nearly every single lap, and so has Ann Medma's. Here he comes around the outside. Brookman is slowed down from behind. There's a bit of side-by-side contact, no, and now Renz finally claims it. He might even go for more.
Yeah, he's looking for it around the outside to turn number 5. That's going to be some close quarter stuff. He's going to swap back side-by-side racing, though, into turn number 6. Rarely, if ever, works out well. Keep a calm, cool, and collected head, Renz. That doesn't work out there at all. He gets a bit of a slow exit. So does Shanks. I think the driver got the best run. Heading onto the right haul straight away was Medma. Let's look as they're side-by-side between Shanks and Brookman. Into the corkscrew, they're going to go. Brookman going to hold on to that inside line through the second part of it. They touch and bang wheels. Shanks going to get shown the door as here comes Medma. Gets that move done back to jump his way up into third, but it is still close between these racers down into turn number 10. Renz Brookman, I was just going to suggest it may be a good idea to try and lay back, lay low in this race, but no, he's decided to throw haymakers at his competitors, and it's getting really intense at the front. Will say, I think we have about 2 laps left to go. Actually, no, they are on the white flag. My apologies. I was looking at incorrect information. My apologies there. So Thomas Fleming on track for a win. But this battle for the final 2 podium spots still going to be intense as ever. As look at Shanks trying to make something work around the outside to turn number 2. Marie sets a fast lap of the race last time by. If these drivers come to blows, look at him to try and pick up the pieces as a dive from the 3 on the 2. That's not going to work.
We're going turn 3 right where you can't. They've done it once into the corkscrew. They're doing it here again now. I don't see any way every car remains facing forwards at the end of this, but they've done a good job of it so far. Kieran Shanks bumped back on that corkscrew going side by side. Now Renz Brookman sent around. Entering the uphill section. He's around and he's back. Jos Marie takes the P4 again. I think there may have been a little net code from my angle, but we'll check that one again on this side. And Medma now has to hold off Kieran Shanks for just a few more turns. Jos Marie is all the way back in contention. Thomas Fleming is due to cross the line anytime soon, uncontested for P1. But a bold move from Shanks. It's a fantastic move in the open space. There's one more turn, and I think Anne's going to have to go for this. You're going to have to do everything you can to get the draft. He goes wide. Here comes Jos Marie. They're going to drag race to P3. That's going to be Medma's. But what a last few laps to make a battle for not even the win of that race.
And we can now bring... Oh, Shanks nearly loses it heading down to turn number 2. Good thing you lost it after the finish, let alone during the race. But holy cow. Thomas Fleming, he had a peaceful, tame, and calm run at the end of that. That was a peaceful walk through the woods. The battling behind, though, that resembled more of a fist fight that you'd see in the Walmart parking lot of a Walmart as people were trying to battle over getting the last half-price... Oh, God dang it, I screwed it up. But no, that was insanity that we're seeing there. All those drivers just throwing haymakers at each other all throughout that race. The line was going to be battling and fighting over the final flat screen TV at half price. Those racers, I mean, I gotta say, I don't think any of them were remotely calm at all throughout that. They were bringing the thunder. They were bringing the fire. I will say Renz Brookman, I think he flew a bit too close to the sun and all of that, but, you know, he had to do it. He had to try and get those moves done. And, you know, despite the fact he ends up in the gravel trap, ending up well farther back than he probably had in mind, all of those racers treated us as some of the best battling we've seen it all throughout this season. It's not a drafting track, but that put on a wonderful race here today.
Let's go through a few of these crashes that we couldn't quite talk about. A big dive into turn 2, as you would handily correct me. I don't know why that was identified as a possible crash. I think we got away with turn... Well, actually, no. It was a few turns down the line here. Yes. This is Gregory on the inside. And that's a bold move to the inside. Let them argue on the voice chat about what's happened, by the way, as they're doing right now while I grab some replays. That is not a replay. Let's head to Dan Blake on lap 2. And I thought this kicked off with that white and black car up ahead, and that caused a check up in line and a few cars to go around reacting to each other. Here's one from maybe Benjamin Rogers. That's what I'm told. When it's red, I click. Oh, a bit of net code off the rear of the car in front there. And
I think that was just a simple overcorrect. They just snapped it at the front.
And here's the big one. Let's go back a little bit more in time to try and understand how this one really went down. We're on Bellotti's perspective, and I know it really kicks off a little bit further ahead down the road. Who has one of those other 1600 shaped cars? By that I mean red cars. Let's look at Daniel Tufts. I think he was one of the main cars that was part of this, and we'll get a good angle from that at the very least. I said 1600 shaped car. I mean the default red livery, but I'm aware that's the funniest sentence I've ever come out with on a broadcast. Did
you not hear what I said, trying to say the battling and fighting like they were fighting for the final flat screen TV at half price? Did you not hear that comment out of my mouth a matter of like a minute and a half ago, Howie?
I mean, all we do is bangers. All we do is bangers. What can I say?
Yeah.
No, this was controversial, and they're going to argue this for some time, but here's your angle. Leave it to yourselves. That's all I'll say. Leave it to yourselves, because I've got to move on and show just a little bit more. Leonardo Piers Nogueira. The UK doesn't have the Fifth Amendment, but I'm sort of doing the equivalent. I think it's the same wreck. So many cars involved in that wreck. The next big one was Jos Marie. So let's get another angle of it. This is the one time someone on the stream didn't fence it. So that's what we know. I merely press buttons and shout funny words. But that is that, and that was one of our last big wrecks. Did Daniel Tufts have another wreck?
Yeah, I'm going to chalk it up as to me throwing a bad commentator's jinx towards Tufts. I was like, man, he's a driver to keep tabs on throughout this race, and he was, but he got involved in some drama, and it kind of went the other way, and there it is, his car going the other way, coming out of the corkscrew. I'll tell you what, you mentioned the red cars. Daniel Tufts, as much as he didn't have a red car, he certainly had the red mist throughout this race. Speaking of the red mist, here is Renz Brookman and his drama right at the end of all this. He was involved in a rather controversial collision heading down into turn number 5 at the end of this race. You can see that side-by-side battling with himself, with Shanks and Medma, and there's Brookman licking the stamp and sending it. All of those racers were throwing haymakers at each other, and I think Brookman, as I said not terribly long ago, I think he may have potentially flown a little bit too close to the sun, at least in my opinion, with the moment heading down into turn number 5. But you can see it was intense in that battle up at the front. There's no question or shadow of a doubt that all those racers were seeing red.
I see a lot of blocking from Shaq sometimes. I do. It was kept in one piece, but I saw a lot of moving on some of these long straight. I think the incident was a bit of bad net code at a bad time from my screen. I mean, it's bad luck that sends the car around, because you see it twitch in some really unusual ways there in the contact, not usually how it would. But that's one car sent to the back. I wonder if there's anyone that wants to talk after that one. We don't have any right now, so let me just get up the results and we'll work out what to do with that then. 20 cars hit this grid, and some of them exploded. Thomas Fleming takes a win that we didn't even get to showcase on camera, but it became pretty domineering after that wreck. Kieran Shanks beats out Anne Medmer and Jos Marie, who just caught up to the back of the pack for that battle at the very end. Marcel Noldus is 5th, Graham Robbie Hunt is 6th, Jordan Gonkowski is 7th ahead of Renz Brookman, Dima Sirkin, and I plead the 5th on Gregati's first name because everyone's telling me something different about it. Fabio Birchtold finishes 11th ahead of Mark Shawley, Philip Shear, Dan Blake, Benjamin Rogers, Leonardo Nogueira, Daniel Tufts, Andrea Bellotti, Christopher Cash, and Fatif Igritas to round out the pack. And we almost had the opportunity to talk to a top 3 driver, and I want to do it. Wait.
They left.
Yeah, we're getting him. Get back in there. Get back in there.
I'll tell you what. The snacks. We need to stock up on the snacks in the green room. Oh, there we go.
We'll go with this one then. It's Kieran Shanks. It's been a very, very active day, one could say, in more ways than one. But you had a spectacular race up at the front of that pack.
Yeah, it was good fun. No testing. And no setup, but managed to have a good race.
It really, really, really flared up as the race very much went on. And it was very, very hard to really find a passing spot. I wondered how sort of desperate people were getting out there. Were you just biding your time, or were you always looking for things?
No, there were some big engines out there. Some of the guys we were racing just had some extra straight line speed, so realised at the end I wasn't going to get Tom because he's just perfect. And yeah, so I had to start defending because otherwise I was just going to get driven past on the straights.
I will say, I'm going to put it out there though. A lot of movement in front of cars to stop them getting by. I'm surprised you got away with a lot of it, but a lot of faith, I think, was put in people's hands. And a lot of unusual lines ended up working out. There were some people questioning, oh man, are those lines going to be fast enough to get ahead of people? And they were. Is it nice to have a race that is fairly clean after any drama that may or may not have happened?
Yeah, no, there's certain people not here this week, and suddenly the race is clean, so that's no surprise.
I'm not gonna enable this one, but I'll just say.
And yeah, it's not a draft track, and apparently I'm not good at non-draft tracks, so yeah, it was good fun. But big congrats to Tom. You know, he drove a brilliant race, and aside from somebody moving in front of him and may or may not take themselves out, he drove a very nice, clean race.
And finally, any other thank yous or shout outs before we move on?
Yeah, I'd just like to shout out my engine builder, Kian Garrity, for the best motors, and Tom
it's
Fleming.
Kian Garrity. I've just been getting that wrong all day, and he's gonna laugh, and everyone else is gonna laugh. Everyone else has been laughing at me already. Kian Garrity. That's how you do it.
Just call him Ian with a C. That's what everyone else calls him.
We'll take it. We will take it. A good result on a very, very good race, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you in future weeks.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Stream was great. Thanks again.
And that was Kieran Shanks, and we're missing a few podium contenders, so I will let you speak to Renz Brookman.
Yeah, Renz Brookman now joining us here in the broadcast. Renz, it feels like I talk to you every single week, so we'll do these interviews how we usually do it. First off, how was this race here at Laguna Seca? It looked rather nuts out there, especially towards the end.
Yeah, it kind of was. I was just trying to buy my time. It's an extremely difficult track to pass, so if you fight at the wrong time with the wrong people in the race, you just lose touch with the guys in front. They managed it quite well, actually. With 2 laps to go, thought I was going to try to move forward a bit. Passed 2 cars in the same lap, and then the last lap I got hit from behind by Anne. Unfortunate, but yeah, slight misjudgment by him, I think.
Now, I want to ask you about this racetrack, because you brought up the challenges of trying to get some overtakes here, because it feels like every single corner is just a shot to try and get another move done. So going side by side throughout the entirety of the lap is not entirely out of the question. I want to ask you, though, what do you think is the hardest part about this racetrack in these cars?
Well, the corner speeds are quite high, I think. So there's pretty much just one one line. Not really any long straights to trying to line up the car in front. The only real hard braking zone is into turn 1, for example. So it's just very hard to get alongside.
And I was seeing some drivers succumb to many challenges around this racetrack. I adore Laguna Seca, but I can imagine at certain points of time it is rather tough in these cars that are, at certain points, woolly handlers, shall we say the very least. But moving off to another California racetrack, I'll be staying on the West Coast, running at not Laguna Seca. We're running that here today, Long Beach, in 1 week's time. That is going to be about as unforgiving as a race could be this season. What are your thoughts heading into it?
Personally, I'm very much looking forward to it. Short backstory, I'm on iRacing since 2009. Back then, they already had the laser scanned screenshot. But it took quite a while before the track to come out, so I actually never raced there. But it's one of the tracks that drew me into iRacing, so very much looking forward to the race there.
And looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack in just 1 week's time, Renz. We'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go.
No, as usual, just the guys racing. you guys for doing the broadcast. You guys doing an amazing job. You guys making the broadcast possible as well, of course. And just all the drivers. Again, up front at least, it was a very clean race. I think there was one incident in front, but I couldn't really see much about what actually happened there. But from my perspective, the race was actually quite clean and, yeah, again, hard and fair racing, so it was good.
And looking forward to seeing you out there again at Laguna Seca in 1 week's rents. Thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth, and we'll let you go and get some practice in for that very challenging race this upcoming week.
Now, I did some crazy work over the last few minutes of a lot of shuffling around Discord and a lot of communication in order to get our race winner, Thomas Fleming, on the line.
No, 100%. That's why
Hello,
I didn't
Thomas.
do this
Sorry, I just dropped you out of a conversation you were having.
Oh my god,
Boom!
I'm dizzy.
Thomas Fleming.
I'm dizzy.
There goes the win. I know.
The jump scare of a lifetime.
I just pulled you out of your conversation with Martin Arnoldo to talk, but these things happen quickly.
That's the entertainment business.
A very, very dominating win after the incident, but you sure had pace out there when it mattered.
Oh, what can I say, mate? Very little testing going into this event. Very good to have Kieran Shanks on the driver coaching duties and Kean Garrity doing the data, and Marcus Luzio, who was unable to make the race, supporting me in the grandstands by picking his nose. So, yeah, that was a good race. Unfortunately, I would have liked it to have been a bit cleaner. Yoss going into the corkscrew, poked my nose up to the left-hand side of him. He jinxed left, and, you know, as we all know, once you can only move, and then he moved straight across me whilst I was braking. So, swings and roundabouts, really, and, you know, we didn't really have the waft, didn't get the right sprocket on the car. But you know what? It's this type of car. It's the driver that makes the difference, and I think me and Kieran proved that with a lovely 1-2 performance here today.
I think both of you have done a lot of talking about engines for a car of a spec engine and are basically about as much horsepower as a blender, I must say. It's a fun track to hot lap around. Do you think we'll be seeing more of you on the track though?
Oh, well, the rest of the competition, best hope not. You know, I'm just in scintillating form at the moment. But you could talk about engines. I could talk about all day about engines, about bottom ends and pistons and all that. It's a very, I don't know, it's a very dodgy series, and you just get the best motor that you get given, and you have to do the best job you can. So, you know, I was losing roughly 3/10 in a straight line. But yeah, still managed to pull it out the bag.
And before we wrap up the stream, any other thanks or shout-outs?
Shout out to Marcus Luzio for missing the registration. Shout out to, what was his name? Yoss Marie for sensational tyre warm-up under the braking zone mid-race. And shout out to Kian Gerety, or Ryan Gerety, as he's known in France. And Kieran Shanks the Spank.
He seems to be known as anything from anything when I say it. Let me put it like that. Well, it's a good win.
If I may, his birth name is Sean. I don't know why people are calling him Kieran, but it's Sean Garrity. Sean England Garrity. His middle name is England for whatever reason.
That's an argument that you guys can have as viciously as you want around here. But we have a show to wrap up, so good win.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. See you later.
And we'll see you around soon. That has been the silliest set of interviews I've ever had to run. You got the easy one in the middle. I sort of had to deal with a fun day today. Shenanigans.
I feel like after listening to that interview with our race winner here today of Thomas Fleming, I feel like I've become British in the process of listening to it. So I may need to go out and get my teeth strained.
Unofficial championship standings, these might change as we get the results from other splits through, but even without winning, Rens Brookman's closest rivals aren't performing as well, and that's forming big big consistency. Later in the season, drop weeks will come into effect that could have a serious effect on things. But right now, he leads the way. Any more reflections going into Long Beach?
I feel like the order of the day when we head off to Long Beach, celebrating some more California love as we're at here on the West Coast, I would say the main order of the day for those racers will probably be prayer. You know, there's so much you can do with the gravel traps and the sand and the dead grass around here at Laguna. There's not a lot that you can do with the solid concrete wall. You don't need to be a physics expert to know what happens when a race car meets a solid concrete wall. So I have a feeling that it's going to be another challenging race for these drivers in 1 week's time. But we do have that massively long start-finish stretch off into turn number 1. That'll probably give us that same sort of leapfrog effect that we had at Road Atlanta, with the same sort of incidents that we would probably have if we ran an FF1600 race at the Slinger Figure 8.
The season remains thrilling and exciting. There's been some of the best races I've ever commentated so far this season, and there may be even more to come, so stay tuned for future weeks. But until then, I've been Howie Burrows and Ron Mons. Thank you very much for watching this week. Stay subscribed and stay tuned for more, and we both wish you the best.